Hey everybody, Leanna here. Okay, last week in part 1 of the man versus bear debate, the comments section got, well, kind of abusive. And we value differences of opinion here on Two Women Talking. That's why it's two women talking about things. But this is a point counterpoint, folks. And that means one person is going to take the side of the man and one person is going to take the side of the bear. So commenting like it's a completely one-sided conversation is showing you're not listening. And ad hominem attacks, calling anybody irrational or stupid, defeats the purpose of the exercise. So I'm asking everybody to focus on specific comments, specific points, and not ad hominem attacks, because we are men, not animals. Right, Team Man? So Team Bear, week 1. I expect good things for you, Team Man, week 2. Here we go. Without further ado, the next part of Two Women Talking's The Man versus Bear debate. And this is the other thing that men, cisgender men, don't get. The idea that I became aware of this through comic books, believe it or not, because of the whole women in refrigerators thing.
Mm-hmm.
Male authors would do things to the female partners of male characters because of the emotional response it generated in the male character.
Mm-hmm.
And so the worst thing you can do to a woman is rape her. The worst thing you can do to a man is rape his wife or girlfriend. You know, cut up Kyle Rayner's girlfriend and shove her in a fridge.
Yeah.
And that whole debate really spun out in unfortunate places. All feminist debates tend to, unfortunately, because there's nobody refereeing.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it's the same issue I had with the rape of Vess in Witcher 2. That became about two men going to avenge her and their story. She disappears from the story once King Hansel rapes her. She's as good a fighter, possibly better than Vernon Roach in those games, and you couldn't take her with you. If I had been able to bring Vess as a companion and have her stab that fucker in the gut, I would have been totally good with it. But there's a game where she does the Red Sonja Conan thing of best me in battle and I'll sleep with you kind of thing, because now you've earned it. So you see what's important to her, and then she gets raped, and all of a sudden, oh no, all bets are off. The line is literally, I don't want you to get hurt again. You can't come. It's so insulting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real shitty thing. I don't talk about the worst shit that happened to me, not because I'm ashamed of it, because I know people will see me as a victim. And I don't want that. I don't want it. You know, I'd rather people see me as I am now. That's why I don't like what they did with Yennefer in the Witcher Netflix series, because I can relate to the character from the books not wanting anyone to know.
Yeah.
It's her right to keep it a secret, because nobody treats a victim like a leader.
Yeah.
Nobody. And you have to be such a complete bad bitch to overcome that, oh, that poor thing, that you just don't talk about it. Because nobody asks you what you want the minute you're sexually assaulted. Everybody starts telling you, I shouldn't say nobody, but the norm is everybody starts telling you what you should do, what you did wrong, what you need to do now. Stay in the corner where you're safe and protected. Let everybody else handle it. And it feels so damn re-victimizing. And then when you won't stay, when you won't just be a good little girl and let everybody else save you and protect you, then you're seen as a problem and people aren't going to help you anymore because you're clearly traumatized and difficult. It's like, no shit, I'm traumatized. I've completely lost control of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the fate worse than death element of it. And, you do see, I wish that there was less really savage competition between young women and older women,
Yeah.
because I really do think that if, older women and younger women got along better, there's a lot, talking to you and some of the other ladies in the group, I'm reminded of what it was like before I was old and bitter, you know? But it's also, I can say it's all right, you'll get through it. Things will happen. Shit will
Mhm.
go down. It's not the end of the world. And because there's only so many spaces for women in, it's a man's world. Um, we don't have those conversations.
Yeah. You just reminded me something Galatea said in one of her videos on the red pill was the reason older women don't like Andrew Tate isn't because we resent that we're too old for the creepy man with the camera. It's we don't like the way he talks about younger women because we understand that those younger women are easier to manipulate. But
Yeah.
so often men in those spaces try to push it as, oh, you're just bitter that you're too old for these high value men. No, it's we know that these are not actually high value men.
Yeah.
These are creeps who are taking advantage of younger women who don't know what they're getting into.
And let's face it, it's weird because every woman knows attractiveness is currency
Hmm.
in society. Like, if you're, a woman's body is her high powered job, big salary, sports car, y- you know, expensive watch. It's
Hmm.
everything in one. It is a status symbol.
And it's nothing new. You look at Pride and Prejudice, where the
Yeah.
whole problem with the parents in that is that Mr. Bennet acknowledges that he married a beautiful woman and did not care about the fact she was stupid and he
Mhm.
didn't like her personality. But he married her for looks and he has regretted it all his life.
Yeah, and I was talking to a male friend of mine. Um, a woman dumped him for another guy,
Hmm.
and of course that didn't work out. And so now she's sniffing back around because he will take her places. But I said she's getting too old to be the arm candy, and she's not a good enough talker for a rich guy who wants a woman closer to his own age.
Hmm.
Because that does matter. I do find it very interesting that a lot of the charity events I go to, not the stupid industry shit where it's all
Hmm.
egos and, very fragile ones, but the ones where we're actually there to raise money to send kids to camp or for research or whatever, children's
Where you
hospital.
actually get stuff done.
Yeah. The women there they look their age.
Hmm.
They might have had a little work done, but it's not over the top plastic. And
Hmm.
they all have their own things that they do, and they can carry on a conversation.
Hmm.
And I mean, these are people with connections to government. These are people with really important things. One couple I talked to was getting, girls out of Afghanistan and things
Oh,
like
well.
that. Yeah, and when you're doing something important, you don't have the ability to be down for 6 to 8 weeks minimum because of a tummy tuck, And I do think that it is the messaging. I think women understand on an intrinsic level sexual currency.
Hmm.
And it does mess women up. This idea that it doesn't matter how smart I am, it doesn't matter how accomplished I am, It doesn't matter any of this. If I'm not seen as pretty and sexy, well, then every time I open my mouth, I'm going to get hit with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's fucking true. It's true on the left. It's in some ways more true on the left than on the right. Because there's this cattiness that is developed. And I think because of the veneer of where the civilized Christian ones, certain right-wing commentators will not go there. The left-wingers, oh no, they're all status, right?
Yeah.
And you see it. I mean, I used to watch Bill Maher back in the politically incorrect days to see how he greeted female panelists.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to predict, oh, is he going to kiss her on the cheek or is he going to shake her hand? They had to be a certain threshold of conventional attractiveness for him to give her a kiss on the cheek.
And in my second video about the whole Taylor Swift thing, where I was responding to the absolutely atrocious comments I was getting on my first Taylor Swift video, one thing I said was, because someone had commented saying, well, if you had made a video praising her, you still would have gotten misogynistic comments and death threats. I didn't actually get any death threats, just to be clear. But it's like, if I get misogynistic comments from men, I kind of expect that. And like, obviously not all men, but if I get it from some guys who don't like my opinion or whatever, I kind of expect that. It's par for the course. But when I'm getting it from women who claim to be feminists, because they're there supporting Taylor Swift.
They're the worst.
Oh yeah, no, that's the hypocrisy. And it's like, so if I get it from a guy, okay, whatever. If I get it from another woman, I'm gonna call that shit out.
It hurts worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's why on the Discord, I flipped the question around. This was funny, but at this point we're all laughing about it, but I flipped the question around. Who would you rather be trapped in a store with, a bear or a Karen? And of course, it descended into jokes about trank darting Karens.
Oh God, I think I would go with the bear.
Well, that's the thing. Because I said if you call the police, they come and they trank dart the bear, right? You can hide behind the cash register, and the bear will just rampage the shop, but the bear will leave you alone. It'll just smash stuff. Whereas Karen will follow you behind the desk and continue to scream at you, right?
Yes.
But it was funny to turn the question around, just in part to show like, hey, we can take it too, right? Like, we're not just dunking on men. But I mean, in that part, some people said they'd take their chances with the Karen because they were in places where Karening is only allowed to go so far. So it is all life experience. And I mean, to be very clear, I don't like the women who ganged up on men who were hurt by this stuff. And it was like, so many guys brought this whole bear man thing up to me very sheepishly, because they were feeling, some of the comments I heard were, I already cross the street when I'm walking alone at night and I see a woman coming towards me because I don't want to make her uncomfortable. How much more do I have to do? And we do have a problem where, like I said about the Alan Wake comparison, when we are hyper vigilant against all men, the only men that get through those shields are the bad ones. Because a guy who is coming at you honestly, they're eventually going to get discouraged and hurt and just leave you alone. It's like you said, it's that guy that doesn't respect boundaries who's going to keep bugging you and wearing you down. There's got to be something we can do to have effective screening with boundaries where opting in is an acceptable option without. I hear from a lot of people that, well, if I agree to this, what am I accidentally agreeing to that I'm not aware of?
Hmm.
And that's why I think, teaching consent and actually having an affirmative consent model and showing in the media how affirmative consent can be sexy. We need to do that. And we're not. The media is constantly like, he looks at her, she looks at him. Next thing you know, she's riding him like a pogo stick. And we don't see any of the cool stuff in between.
Hmm.
We don't get any of the dialogue. We don't get any of the foreplay. We don't get any of the sexy, can I do this? Can I do that? Yes, yes. We need to start seeing that in media so it's normalized, because the number of people who say, well, that's not romantic. Consent isn't romantic.
Oh, that's
That's,
a red flag.
yeah, well, no, I hear it a lot. That it's
And like,
awkward, that it's stilted. Yeah.
yeah, no, and I get that. Because, even when I first started seeing stuff about like, oh, asking permission every step of the way, I was like, well, that sounds obnoxious. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, it feels like that is the only solution.
And it,
Because,
it can be done in a way that isn't stilted.
yes. And like, here's the thing. I remember during the Me Too movement, we had so many stories of women coming out against actors and celebrities who were like, "Oh, well, I didn't actually say no, but didn't I didn't actually want to do it." And I've heard similar stories from women who it's like, I didn't feel comfortable saying no." And I'm like, "Okay, but you have to get used to saying no."
Well,
And
I
it's like,
understand in Hollywood, you say no, you lose a job.
yeah.
And
Still,
that's got to stop.
yeah. And like Hollywood is one thing, but like the particular story I'm thinking about was one of the women speaking against like Aziz Ansari, I believe.
Hmm.
And like they went out on a date. She went back to his place. They were drinking, and she just never said no. And I'm like, okay, but we really I understand why women are afraid of saying no. Obviously, that's something I've brought up with the way some men can react. But we also still need to normalize being in a position where you are confident enough to say no. And if you're not confident enough to say that in those positions, maybe you need to avoid those situations.
This is another thing of how we socialize girls as well, because
Hmm.
I am from the eighth generation. I am from the no means no generation. You've seen the results. It's like, oh hell
Hmm.
no. This idea of he didn't read my nonverbal cues. Just, I'm not saying it was better. People got to understand this. I'm glad we have to, because what we were taught is, um let him hit you, then he gets charged. Say no, let him hit you, because then it's actual evidence. If you just
Oh God.
submit and he sexually assaults you, you can't prove it wasn't consensual. That's how I came up. I'm glad we don't live in that world anymore. That's just as a baseline here. But let's face it, what women are really afraid of is not violence, it's
Hmm.
humiliation, it's being demeaned. And because men are demeaned by older men, there is that switch
Hmm.
that flips in some men, and you never know which one until you get it to till it flips the first time, and they just get real mean, and they hit every "you are worthless as a woman" button on the planet. And it it happens. What one of the things I try to do is be an example to women, you know, Life goes on after Hassan Piker announces to his entire audience that he doesn't find me attractive. I mean, he didn't come right out and say it, but let's face it, femcel, yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's saying something. And he got away with it.
Yeah.
Big leftist, big left-wing dude just said that shit. And I'm not surprised. And I just try to set an example of, look, yeah, those guys are the ones younger men look up to. That
Mhm.
is a horrifying proposition. I mean, in many ways, in terms of how they treat women, Hassan Piker isn't much better than Andrew Tate.
No.
He's still standing in judgment of women. He still clearly has specific things that he values women for and specific things he does not. And he makes that pretty clear. And as easy as it is to say, well, fuck him, it's very easy. I get why
Hmm.
some people feel insecure
Hmm.
because of that, because the influencers are the idols of our generation. They're the common standards that people under a certain age have. And I don't think it's an accident that these left-wing influencers are being incredibly superficial at the same time where 20-year-olds are getting Botox.
Yeah.
Like it's connected, it's linked. And we do have to go. No, just because his politics on union labor are acceptable doesn't mean he gets to be a pig. I
Yeah.
don't know Hassan Piker's positions on union labor. I just pulled that out of my ass, you know? And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with the pop feminists of, you know, Stellar Blade is so mid. I'm kind of disappointed, and I'm playing it on Twitch if anybody's interested. But it's just so there's one scene at the beginning where she's sort of birthed out of the pod, and so she's mostly naked, and there's this amniotic fluid, and there's not much sexiness after, and even that's not really that's nudity. I didn't consider
Hmm.
it sexy.
Hmm.
And of course she's got this guy in layers upon layers of clothing, and his name is Adam, and her name is Eve, and he's her backup. He's the one talking in her ear and teaching her about things. And it's for fucks, this is so, I
On the
get it.
nose.
It's so on the nose. And the average guy exceptional girl thing, I do think
Oh
we have to talk
God.
about it,
Yeah.
because it is really a form of entitlement. Because again, it's not about, if it was the exact same character with the exact same skills, but she didn't look completely artificial and impossible, I don't think there's be as many stands for the game. And I am not criticizing Shift Up for that. Let them take white people's money. I'm good with that. Good for you, Korean developer. Make that bank.
It's, it's like the people who have been freaking out about the censorship in the game. It's like, oh, there's this one bunny suit where they added a couple inches of fabric and lowered
Yeah,
the
I saw
height
that.
of the leg hole. It's like, I'm sorry, this is so cherry picked because you still have the skin suit
That's right.
option,
And
which it
it
yeah.
games like that are like the topless reviews in Vegas.
Hmm.
That I went backstage. I covered one of those with my old TV job. And the truth is that for the first 5 minutes of the show, you're aware they're mostly naked. And then after that, you stop noticing.
Yeah,
It's just, okay, it's a body. And it stops being a thing. They got
the
people's
first
money. I have no problem with it. If a bunch of guys want to be stupid and throw their money at waifus, it's their money. Enjoy. I have no problem with it. You
I
know?
mean, the first time I saw a recording of Dita Von Teese performing, I was shocked. Now I'm used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm more surprised when I see her wearing clothes.
Yeah, okay. I could see that. But yeah, it just, I think we have to be able to talk about this stuff, and I'm sure some guys are going to be, you called me stupid with that. It it is not the smartest purchasing decision to buy a 30 to 60-hour experience because of the 20-minute thrill you get of boobies. There really should be more to the game than that because it wears thin. It's the same. I mean, we've had the same attitude of people who bought Baldur's Gate 3 for the bear sex.
Hmm.
It's not even 2 minutes of the game.
No.
Like, why? I don't understand people who buy those games for the quote unquote romances. First of all, they're not really romantic. The the parts where they do try to be romantic fall so flat a lot of the time because they're so cliche. And
I,
there's
I
just
think
go ahead.
I think it benefits from, I'm just going to call fan fiction culture and headcanon culture, where people can see something very bare bones and then put so much headcanon and fan assumption on top of it and make it out like great.
Let,
Like,
let let's face it, it's women finding these, and not just women, I plenty of men play the game and are interested in the romances. But in the
mhm,
case of, the Asterion fangirls, it is a very pretty man being vulnerable that you can support and save. And even though, it's that he's a horrible, selfish piece of crap, but then he falls in love with you and he has a heart after all. And it almost is that the flip side of this constantly having to protect yourself from predators. Like, here's this guy who started off trying to eat you.
and like I sent you a reel from an author I follow about where she talked about the idea that maybe the reason part of why we like boys in romance and these walking red flags is because at least it's honest from the get. And if you see his bad side from the beginning and then you see the softer heart, well, that's a revelation and it's you getting to see the secret side he. Whereas if it's a guy who's nice at the front and then turns out to be a monster behind it, you were tricked.
And I found that argument very compelling. I had to admit, I told you that. Like, it's
Hmm.
again, that is ignoring the shadows thinking again. But I get it. It's another one of these things that I just have had very unique life experiences. And just because I don't share that desire, I don't share the interest, doesn't mean I don't totally understand it.
Hmm.
And I do think that if if men if everybody started listening better instead of reacting, because
Yeah.
I keep getting reminded of how many different ways that the people in media I find sexy are very different. I mean, X-Men 97, Beast got in 4 feet of a woman and shit went down again because of course. And I freaking love Beast, right?
Yeah.
Cause like, come on. Beast is the testament. It's usually male writers on X-Men.
Hmm.
It is a male unease, right? Because the guy's a
Yeah.
doctor and a geneticist, and he can quote Shakespeare by heart and uh all this stuff. He lives in a mansion. Okay, it's not his, but he lives there, and all this stuff that makes him great. And he has no luck with women because he has blue fur.
Hmm.
A woman did not fucking write that. You
I
know,
mean, I seem to be the woman in the world who likes human beast from Beauty and the Beast. Everyone else is just like, no, I want the beast form. And I'm like, I don't want to fuck the beast form. I want the human form.
yeah, I'm not well, Disney movies, sexualizing Disney movies, I get that people do it and I don't judge. My brain just kind of goes "Meh," on that. I can't go there. right?
I
I
mean,
can't go there. Because do they sing during sex? Like, does like a marimba start of da 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 on Eric and Ariel's wedding night? Like, what the fuck happens after the happily ever after in Disney?
look, I wrote Calidus Chronicles specifically because I wanted a Disney princess story for adults.
Like, I'm imagining the mice from Cinderella coming up at the end and singing Carmina Burana on their wedding night. Like, what the fuck happens in Disney sex? You know, in The Lion King, when it's mating season, does that guy do the da Zavenya? Like what happens? I did not think either of us expected how that this episode was going to go this way, but
I did not.
it's just an example of now that everybody is recovering from Leanna's brain. Um, it is it does show the artificiality of the format, right? And that's the whole point. It's safe. This stuff doesn't exist in Disney. I mean, Beast is pretty terrifying at the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, and at least in that one, they actually knew each other for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Not a love at first sight thing. There's a whole song about basically, I thought he was a dick at first, something there that wasn't there before, right?
Yeah.
So there is, I mean, the reason I like that movie so much is that they did have to get to know each other. And it
Yeah.
was all a movie about seeing below the surface because he never really comments on the fact that she's attractive. He comments on the fact that she's kind and isn't afraid of him.
There is a point where he says, she's so beautiful and I'm a beast.
Right, right.
But
But
it's also
that's,
like,
yeah, but he's also, and for once she didn't shudder at my paw,
yeah,
meaning
it,
she
it, it,
used to.
it's not like, it's not like the Swan Princess where it's, you're beautiful. What else is there?
Well, and it's not the very uncomfortable deconstruction of that kind of stuff in Frozen, which I enjoyed as an adult, but I see what you mean about
Hmm.
it. It's very on the nose and it's yeah. But again, all these movies are built around feminine anxieties that
Hmm.
women need permission to let a guy in, you know, literally and figuratively, because if he turns out to be an asshole, it's your fault. You didn't prevent
Hmm.
it. You didn't screen it. And that's the thing that I think will help everyone, men and women and non-binary people, if we do away with it. Because
And it's like, even I've, every time I come across a post from a woman who's like, hey, I did trad wife, ended badly, and this happened. He cheated on me. Now I'm a single mom. Always a probably younger guy in the comments going, oh, well, you should have chosen better. And it's like, if you want women to be married by the time 20, they don't have the brain capacity to choose.
well, I remember when Demi Moore was married to Ashton Kutcher,
Vaguely.
and you know she was much older than him, and then he
Hmm.
cheated on her, and people were like, "What did she expect?" And I said, "Whatever he said at his marriage vows."
Yeah.
And to their credit, they shut up when I said that. But the fact that the first reaction was, "Well, of course," that's fucked up.
Hmm.
You know, just there's a reason everybody cheers Keanu Reeves for dating women his own age, at least
Yeah.
in the ballpark.
Yes.
It just, and what I like about it is he doesn't do the, oh, I'm a great guy, I'm gonna, he doesn't do what that guy on the Discord did of, no, we should all be this way. He's just, yeah, I'm very happy.
Yes.
And I do think that with all of this, and I'm not saying just in men, it's all of this. There is a lot of ego involved. And I'm not saying that this is a criticism, because this stuff matters. I really do believe that video game romances where you choose this stuff, it's more about feeling soothed about what's broken in you, because
Hmm.
otherwise you think too hard about this fantastically attractive person would never even speak to me in real life, certainly not kindly. I'm very aware of that.
Hmm.
There's a patheticness about it if you're not going, well, no, this guy's broken bits remind me of my broken bits. And so if I'm nice to his broken bits, in a way, I'm imagining that, oh, somebody will accept me despite my broken bits.
Hmm.
And I do think that the broken bits in men and the broken bits in women are what's, they're rubbing up against each other like broken glass in this whole
Yeah.
man versus bear thing. And instead of recognizing that and everybody taking a step back, we're just watching people tear each other apart over it.